Hey, back again. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. I think I had some bad internet connection. Okay, posting a vertical launch problem. I know a lot of you have had a hard time with this type of problem, so hopefully this will help. Make sure you understand the concepts that go with a vertically launched object. Remember that a vertically launched object goes from the ground up and its initial speed is generally given to you. Um, it can't be zero because then it wouldn't go anywhere. You know that your acceleration is always going to be -10. Remember that you're always accelerating the entire time. On the way up, it's accelerating, stops, and changes direction, so it's still accelerating, and then speeds up on the way down, so it's still accelerating. Okay? So slowing down, stop, change direction, speeding up. Remember that the time to Y max is half the flight, right? So time up plus time down is the total time of flight. Okay, so if you know the time it takes to get from the ground to the maximum height, you can take that time and just double it to find the time of flight. Okay, um, remember that at the maximum height, the object stops momentarily. Very, 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 very small amount of time, but it still stops and then comes back down. So at the maximum height, your Vy is 0. Please make sure you understand that because if I asked you um, to find the maximum height, you can just use equation number 5 and go about it that way, which is what this problem is that I've added. So, looking at the problem in the chat, an object is launched from the ground at a speed of 200 meters per second. What is its maximum height? So, I always start every single problem by writing down my givens and my asked fors, which is super important. You basically can't solve the problem without writing them down. And you really shouldn't try to solve a problem without writing down your givens and asked for. So start by doing that. I'm always going to start with A because it's given to me. It's always the same. It's always -10. Okay. I know at the maximum height, my velocity is going to be 0. Those are not in the problem itself, but those are things that I know because I know the concepts of a vertically launched object. Okay. All vertical motion, the acceleration is -10. Okay. At the maximum height, the speed is always 0. Doesn't matter if it's going up or down. The speed at the maximum height is always 0. Okay. So that's why I start with those. Okay, then what is my launch speed? Did it give it to me? Yes, my launch speed is the 200 meters per second. So that's VYO is 200. Yes, you are trying to find Y when I ask you to find maximum height. Okay, I gave you the fact that it's launched from the ground. So the ground is your initial location, which is going to be 0 meters. Okay? So y is your unknown. If you look at your list of givens and your asked for, you'll notice that there is no t anywhere to be found. We don't know t, we can't find t, we're not looking for t, okay? It's not there. So that means I cannot use an equation that has t in it unless I want to do an extra problem, okay? If you wanted to do this problem in 2 steps, you are more than welcome. I'm not going to do it in 2 steps, but you can if you want to, okay? So what I'm going to do is look at equation 4 and 5. What's the difference? Equation 4 has a total height or a total distance, that's your delta y. Equation 5 has y and yo. Okay? For this problem, you can use either of them. You'll get the same exact answer as long as you do your math correctly. Don't make any algebraic mistakes, please. Okay? So I'm just going to use equation 5 because I know that that works. So vy squared, I'll do the little carets this time, equals vyo squared plus 2ay y minus yo. Okay, so that's your equation 5. If you are watching and you can see the problem in the chat, please solve it. $2K? Did you mean to put $2K? $2,000 is not. Did you do your math right? So it goes. You subtracted first, right? So you did the squares, and then you subtract vy0. So you should have a negative 4,000, right? 200 squared. 40,000, sorry. Divided by 20. Okay, 2,000 it is. Good job, Tal. Make sure you know your answer is positive because it's going up. If you got a negative number, you know you did something wrong. Okay, if you wanted to find the time of flight for that one, I would use equation 3. And there's 2 ways you can do it. You can find the time to y max and double it, or you can find the time of flight. Same equation, still equation number 3. You just have to remember that your vy, when it hits the ground, the velocity when it hits the ground is going to be negative 200. Okay, your launch velocity is always going to be equal in magnitude and opposite in direction as your landing velocity. Okay, so your launch speed and your landing speed are the same because they don't have direction, but the launch will be positive and the land will be negative. If you're wondering, the time of flight should be 40 seconds, 20 up and 20 down. Does anybody have any other questions that they want me to answer? The quiz tomorrow is not going to be all math. There will be concept questions on it. You need to understand um, how the properties of free fall and vertical launch work. Okay? Basic concepts that you're using to solve the math problems, but in multiple choice questions. So if I asked you what the initial speed of a falling object is, you should be able to tell me. If I ask you what's the speed at the maximum height of an object, you should be able to tell me. If I asked you, um, what do you know to be true about a vertical launch, you should be able to tell me all the properties of a vertical launch that you wrote down in your notes. There were like 5 lines of notes that you wrote down. On the way up, slowing down, stops, changes direction, speeds up on the way down, always accelerating. All of these concepts are not going away. They are going to come back once we start doing a projectile motion in 2 dimensions. And I am going to be still gone for that, I think. That's going to cut it close. That's acceleration, not speed. There's no such thing as constant speed for an object in vertical motion. Okay? There's constant acceleration. Remember, speed is how fast you're going, and acceleration is the change in velocity. And on a vertical launch and a falling object, the speed or velocity is changing the entire time. So on the way up, the velocity is decreasing, and then on the way down, the velocity is increasing. Okay. Um, I hope that you think it's easier when I come back. I mean, obviously, I'll be there in your face teaching you and making you actually do things with me. It'll be different than watching videos and listening to, you know, audio. Yes, physics is confusing, especially when you have to solve variables and all that stuff. Just wait till I come back and we start doing free body diagrams with forces. That's okay. I save that stuff for when I'm there. Again, if you have a question specifically, just feel free to send it to me in the chat and I will answer it best of my ability. You guys are making me tired, staying up past my bedtime. I'm sitting here with nothing to do. Kind of gone over everything I think I could do. Um, I hope you guys had fun with the lab. It was supposed to be fun and help at the same time. Sure. Free fall. An object is falling. That means it is going down and it starts with a velocity of 0 meters per second. So that means it starts at rest, right? If you have an object and you let go, technically it's starting at rest momentarily. It doesn't last long, but what's the only thing that's making it fall? Okay. You're not throwing it down. So you're not giving it any kind of initial speed. You're not giving it any force. The only thing that makes the object fall is gravity. So as the object falls, it accelerates, meaning it's going to change velocity. In this case, since it's going downward, meaning with gravity, it's going to speed up as it falls. Okay? Each second, the velocity changes by 10. So if I start at 0, 1 second later it'll be -10, -20, -30, -40, etc., depending on how high I am. Okay, we use 10. It's the rounded number. It's just much easier. Um, if you were in a lab situation, you would use 9.8. If you want to be super exact, then you would use 9.81. But for us, we're just using -10. Okay, so that's falling objects. Um, it hits the ground with a speed. So if I ask you what's the speed when it hits the ground, please don't tell me 0. That's not true. Okay, it can't start at 0 and end at 0. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so I want you to understand that it has an impact velocity. Eventually it'll stop. Yes, the ground will stop it. But when I ask for the speed when it hits the ground, that's your impact velocity. Now, a vertically launched object is doing the opposite. It's going up, so it's going against gravity. Sorry, I'm pausing for a moment. Okay, so vertically launched. It starts with a speed of something other than 0. if you want to launch something up, you have to give it a force, right? So you're going to give it an initial velocity because you're going against gravity. So gravity is going down, your velocity is going up. Remember, when they're going opposite direction, we learned this. Well, you were supposed to learn this. When they're opposite direction, the object is going to slow down. And that should make sense. As the object goes up, throw something up in the air, okay? It slows down, stops, and then falls down, okay? Gravity will eventually make it come back to Earth. That's how it works, okay? So, on the way up, velocity is decreasing. It's getting higher, but the velocity is decreasing, okay? Higher in position, lower in velocity. At the maximum height, we said this before, maximum height, the object has a velocity of 0. It stops. Does it stop accelerating? No, because acceleration by definition is speed up, slow down, or change direction. At the top, at its maximum height, it stops and changes direction. So now it starts to fall down, okay? On the way down, it's speeding up. Just because the velocities are negative doesn't mean it's not speeding up, okay? The launch speed and the landing speed are going to be the same. So if I launch it at 20 meters per second, it's going to hit the ground at 20 meters per second. The only difference, the launch is going to be positive velocity and the landing is going to be negative velocity because they were going opposite direction. That's it. The time of flight for a vertical launch is the time up plus the time down. The time up equals the time down. So if you find one of them, you can find both. Anything else? Sorry, I'm yawning. Yes, Vy0 is always your initial velocity. Anything with a 0 next to it is going to be your initial. So x0, y0, vy0, v0, they're all initial. It's like a origin, if you will. Delta y. Delta y is the total distance traveled, or the displacement, or how far. Yes, you will lose half credit if you don't include the given and asked for. You're getting partial credit for showing each portion of the problem. So you get a point for givens, you get a point for asked for, you get a point for the work, and you get a point for the answer. Anything else? Any other questions? No problem at all. All right, kids. I'm exhausted. I'm gonna go to bed. I'll probably be up in another 3 hours. Yay, infant. Okay. Good luck on your quiz tomorrow. Show your work. Think before you answer. Read, read, read. You got it.